Darkness imprisoning me. All I see, absolute horror. I cannot let. I've done this before, I think. YouTube's darkest videos, number 2.
Wish I had the same energy about this kind of thing going into it.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm just weird. Here's the thing about YouTube's darkest videos. I've ran into some dark stuff on the internet. Stuff I really wish I never knew existed, but now that I know it exists, there are words and things that I wish I could do and say to the people who produce that kind of stuff, but they're out of my reach.
Every time you do something like this, you end up having to think about it again.
Well, that's the thing about life, is just...
Some things are best not to think about if you can help it.
Yeah, but here's the thing with it. Darkness in life is apparent, and it's guaranteed. Some people experience it worse than others, and me, I guess I'm not desensitized to it. I guess I just know how to handle it to a certain degree. At least emotionally. I know not everyone's going to act about it the same way I do. I don't pretend that they do. But, yeah, YouTube's darkest videos, number 2. I guess we might as well just...
I like fictional darkness.
Well, yeah. Hence why, Curse of Strahd.
Well, I mean, like, all kinds of stuff that I like. I like horror movies. I like, dark fantasy, and I like grim, dark stuff, but I like it in a fictional context where I can be like, I'm glad I don't have to worry about stuff like this happening to me,
Yeah.
And then whenever it's like really dark stuff in real life and I find out about it, I'm just like, I don't like this for my mental health because I do have to worry about stuff like this potentially happening to me at some point,
Well, yeah, I guess, but honestly, dude, the thing with it is just with this, I take into account, this is stuff that happens every day, and the circumstances in this are extremely, extremely rare. As in, so rare, it defies belief that it could happen to us. But much like the chances of getting hit by a meteor at any random point, the odds are never 0. So, I guess that's just how it is. So, we're going to jump into this. This is YouTube's darkest videos, number 2.
If I die by getting struck by a meteor, make sure you engrave Pissed Off Sephiroth on my tombstone.
Okay. I'll do that. Pissed Off Sephiroth. You got it. Here we go.
Pissed off Sephiroth and got hit by a meteor.
Nature gathering its forces for still another unending assault on man.
1-800-EMBASSY for res.
It sounds like it came right out of a zombie.
Computers are living in faulty basements. Go below and stay below ground level. Tornado warning.
Tornadoes are scary.
9th, 2015, a tornado begins to form during the evening hours in the small town of Franklin Grove, Illinois,
I was
quickly
always
growing larger and larger by the minute to the point of reaching...
Same. Twister didn't help any with that either. For me...
Twister and Night of the Twisters.
Yeah, with Devon Sawa. Yeah, dude. That was a trippy movie for me back in the day. Watching it now, it's kind of funny, but yeah. But this, I mean, thankfully we live in a mountainous area and it doesn't really allow tornadoes to form.
Yeah.
You need flat plain areas where basically these storm supercells can meet, and then once the supercells meet, they throw out a hook, and you see that hook in the Doppler radar, and then it's a tornado. We don't really know 100% how tornadoes form. All we know is that, once you see the magic happening, be ready, because, oh boy, hell is coming, and it ain't gonna be pretty.
an unprecedented size for the area.
Jesus.
Miles away in the town of Fairdale, 67-year-old Geraldine Schultz spotted the vortex forming in the distance. Worried, she called her husband Clem into the kitchen, where the two would stand watching the tornado out their window. For the couple, tornadoes were nothing new, and Clem was quickly able to determine that the storm would likely miss them to the east. But just to be safe, he went upstairs to grab some lanterns, in the likely event of a power outage. Upon doing so, Clem would catch a glimpse of the tornado outside the bedroom window, having grown significantly closer. Its wind speeds were well over 200 miles an hour, and having been classified as an EF4, it was the largest twister the area had ever seen. In awe of its size, Clem began to record out the window, still certain that the storm was heading east. But unfortunately, he was wrong. And in reality, the powerful storm was heading directly towards him. By the time Clem would realize this, it was far too late. There was no time to run, and not a chance to hide. All he could do was stand there helplessly and watch.
That is... oh my god. Oh my god!
There was enough time that I would have been trying to sprint downstairs and get as low as I could at least.
Yeah.
It was a direct hit as the EF4 tornado tore through the house before Clem could even say a word, quickly turning the home that had once stood there for 100 years to dust and rubble. And buried beneath it all was Clem, along with his wife of 25 years.
Yeah, I guess he was an older dude. He probably couldn't sprint.
Yeah.
They got fire rescue on the way.
Against all odds, Clem would somehow survive, pulling himself up from the field of debris. It was a storm that would go on to destroy numerous homes and take the lives of two people, one of whom was Clem's neighbor and good friend Jacqueline Closa, who lived in the house that Clem had filmed being destroyed just moments before it struck him, and the other being Geraldine, Clem's wife and best friend.
That sucks.
Days following the disaster, a family member who had been searching the area for anything salvageable would stumble across Clem's phone, which miraculously was still working. And on it would be the now infamous video that showed the point of view of a man being struck head-on by a tornado.
Yeah. There's actually a part of this he doesn't tell. When I believe when Clem regained consciousness and was getting himself out of the rubble, like people came over to like help him out, and then they said, Clem, don't look down. What do you mean don't look down? Clem, don't look down. And so Clem just like didn't look down and got him up. He's just like, hey, why did you tell me not to look down? It was his wife underneath him. She was dead. So he didn't want Clem to see that. I remember hearing about this, and I remember this video just...
And somehow surviving. The imagery, the sounds, and the context make this clip one of the most shocking I have ever seen, as well as one of the darkest across all of YouTube.
The tornado has passed. Capricious, swift.
Another thing I worry about is like a lot of tornadoes I see clips of and stuff are obviously shot during storms where it's not completely dark outside.
Yeah.
But I worry about like the storms where like everything's pitch black outside and the wind's really strong and stuff, and I'm like, dude, if a tornado was coming, you wouldn't be able to tell.
No.
Like the only thing that would like tip you off would be the sound of it, which I hear that like supposedly if you're in person and there's a tornado coming at you, like it sounds like a fucking train coming.
It does.
So supposedly like you would know, but I just always worry because I'm like, man, sometimes the wind is like loud enough that it almost sounds like a train, and I'm just get anxious and I'm like, I hope there's not like a tornado coming straight at us right now, you know?
Before we move on to the next video, I want to briefly thank today's sponsor, Casetify. I, like many of you out there, have had a long history of dropping my phone and cracking the screen, which is a pain to fix and not to mention very expensive. But luckily, Casetify is here to help. Casetify is a tech accessory brand that makes high-quality cases for phones and AirPods, along with a number of other accessories. Their impact cases are my personal favorite though, as they're engineered with a 2-layer construction of Qi tech, which makes it drop test approved for drops up to 6.5 feet. These cases come in a ton of unique designs for whatever style you're into, and you can even customize them with your name or a monogram.
Okay, I don't know how much these cost, but I will just say this. Spigen, this phone case right here, ever since I started buying these phone cases, I have had 0 issues. I cannot count how many times I have dropped my phone, and it has never resulted in a broken screen or a cracked screen. Ever.
Mine doesn't have a brand name. It just has a little, like, square logo thing.
Oh.
It's a great blend of protection and personality, and it's actually protective in more ways than one, as these cases have an antimicrobial coating, which kills 99% of bacteria. And best of all, they're more sustainable than most cases on the market, as they're made out of 50% recycled materials. So if you're interested in trying out Casetify for yourself, then head over to casetify.com/Nick Crowley, and you'll receive 15% off your brand new phone case.
A new high-tech way to find out who's at the door.
With a video doorbell, you'll never miss a visitor.
Ooh.
In the past few years, the world has seen a boom in the use of doorbell cameras, mainly because of instances like this.
Oh, they got a camera. Oh, they got a camera. Oh, they got a camera.
Yeah, you better run.
Capturing and exposing criminals in the act, from the most petty of thieves all the way to attempted
poor pirates.
murderers and kidnappers. Due to their knack for capturing disturbing encounters, the videos that have emerged from these devices have practically carved out their own genre here on YouTube, to the point that many, including myself, have almost become desensitized to them. But recently, a video began making the rounds, showing the events that transpired at a Las Vegas home on the evening of July 21st, 2021, and it proved to be one of the most chilling I have ever seen. It happened around 8 p.m., where a young lady had been working in her kitchen, waiting for her husband to return home from work. It was another 100-degree day in Vegas, and likely in an attempt to cool down, she would open her window to let the evening breeze in. Unbeknownst to her, this harmless decision would lead to a terrifying series of events. Outside of the home, a man had been wandering the suburban streets aimlessly, roaming throughout the neighborhood before stopping in his tracks. In front of him was the open window and a clear view of the woman inside. It was a chance sighting that would lead to the man approaching the house and ringing the doorbell, where the camera would begin to record.
I think I've seen this.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen
I
this
just
one on a
rang your
different
doorbell
compilation.
Because I have a couple questions for you.
See, he's not even talking to her right now. He's talking to himself.
Are you sure?
I just rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions for you. Are you sure? Well, what? Are you sure? I just rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions for you. Are you sure?
The man stands there ringing the doorbell and knocking at the door, repeating the same sentences over and over again, calmly stating that he just wants to ask a few questions. However, the woman inside had never met this man. In fact, she had never seen him before this moment. And to make it all stranger, she didn't respond to anything the man was saying, and was out of his line of view as he peeked through the door. So the phrases that he was saying were not in response to anyone, and instead, he was speaking to himself. Fearing for her safety, the woman inside didn't open the door or engage him at all, leading the man to take things a step further.
Are you positive? I just have a couple questions for you. Are you sure? Are you positive? Are you sure? Are you absolutely certain?
He begins trying to open the door, but thankfully it was locked, causing the strange man to start walking away, cursing under his breath. The footage is incredibly off-putting, and although the man seems to stay perfectly calm, there was something very aggressive and erratic about the way he was speaking, making one wonder what his true intentions
Otis vibes.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is Otis without his Alzheimer medication.
were when he approached the house.
Are you sure?
As the man begins to walk away, the woman's husband, still at work, would chime in through the doorbell after noticing the situation begin to unfold, which in turn would lead to the man revealing why he was ringing the doorbell.
Sure. So, who are you? What? Yeah? Are you sure? Who are you? Hey, I just had a couple questions. I just wanted to ask you about AB Show. Yeah, can you hear me? What I'm looking for is for the girl that's in the house to come out here because I'm going to rape her and kill her. Do you have her open the door? I'm going to rape and kill the girl that's on the other side of this door when she lets me in.
It was no secret what he had planned for that evening. He outright says it, even revealing that he had the weapons to make it happen.
I want to rape her and kill her because I have a knife and a gun. Yeah, and I'm going to knock on her door again.
If that woman had opened the door, or if that door had been unlocked,
Yeah, I forgot about that part.
we know what would have happened.
Yeah,
but
that's
thankfully,
fucked,
neither
dude.
of those situations played
wonder,
out,
I was
and
thinking
instead
Otis.
the man walked away muttering the same phrases over and over again.
Yeah. What?
It's like he's got the same beard and everything, you know? It's like I wouldn't be at all surprised to hear him be like, I'm the devil and I'm here to do the devil's work.
Yeah. And also, just only thing it'd be missing is Sid Haig just like riding up and be like, "Oh, just get your ass in the damn van." Swear, "I'm sorry, folks. My clown assistant seems to have gone off of his medication." Rest in peace, Sid Haig.
It's like, oh, god damn it, old man. I was just going to have some fun. Kill this bitch.
Yeah. Just like, we're in suburbia, goddammit. You can't pull that shit here. Like, you need to wait till we're out in the boonies. Shit.
Even staring at the house for a few moments before finally disappearing into the night. Police were called to the area moments later, but the man was nowhere to be found. As quickly as he had entered this couple's life, he was now gone, leaving them with the reality that at any moment, he could return. Scared for her life, the lady posted the clip online, where it would quickly go viral across YouTube, which honestly may have ended up saving a life. The following day, a viewer of the video would recognize the same man walking in another residential area, in one that was not too far away from the house where the encounter took place. And after the police were called, the man would be quickly arrested before he could play out his disturbing fantasy.
Gee.
When confronted and asked for his name, the man would simply state that he was the Holy Spirit, and said nothing more. Though his real name was revealed to be Christopher Sums, a man who had passed charges of stealing, assaulting, and intimidating a witness, with his mugshot being nothing short of completely haunting. But what I found most
Really is a
surprising
devil's
was the fact that
rejects
he
motherfucker.
didn't always look like this. In fact, just a few years ago, he looked completely normal. And according to his LinkedIn, he had a fairly impressive work history and what seemed to be a good life, until for whatever reason, things spiraled in the wrong direction.
Drug addiction, mental illness. It at any given time, anyone can be stricken with a mental illness, or a drug addiction can have a very bad effect on you physically and mentally. It's scary what happens to the human mind.
As it stands, Christopher is being evaluated to see if he is mentally fit to stand trial, as many believe that he likely suffers from some kind of psychological condition, hence the repeating phrases and the strange behavior. Though his blatant
It
and
almost
rapid
sounds
change
like
in appearance
tics. Like,
Yeah.
with, whatchamacallit?
Tourette's.
Yeah, Tourette's or something.
To an extent,
Like
yeah.
the Are You Sure thing, but I don't know. it could also be like, I don't know, you could have psychosis and be answering voices that aren't really there or something like that.
Yeah, schizophrenia it's no joke, dude.
Appearance might also point to heavy drug use or even a combination of both. But regardless of what was behind his behavior that day, the situation and the subsequent video is haunting and could have been so much worse had that door been opened.
Are you sure?
I feel like everyone's out to get me.
Hello, this is Tababa McConnell.
Posted this.
YouTube is a site that draws in people from all walks of life, each with their own unique motivation for starting up their channels. Some are in it for the money and the fame, while others are in it for the love of creating content. But sprinkled throughout the site are a select few who come here to feel heard and to get something off their chest. Something that for 27-year-old Tababa McConnell would be his primary motivation for posting his first and only video on March 17th, 2018. Tababa had struggled his whole life with mental illness, suffering from both schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. These mental illnesses led to an event in 2013 where he would wander off from his home unprovoked. Outside, he began to walk for miles, essentially in a daze, before finding himself in what he described as a very dangerous part of town. Thankfully, Tababa would be safely found before anything had happened to him, but this incident would prove to be life-changing, as it would lead to his hospitalization due to his unpredictable and dangerous behavior. This would also start a long spell of being given heavy medication to help with his schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Over the course of the next 4 years, Tababa would find himself in and out of the hospital and prescribed a variety of powerful antipsychotic drugs, something that would consume his life as he felt like he was no longer in control of his actions. And feeling trapped, he would turn to YouTube to share his story.
Hello, this is Tababa McConnell. I'm talking and putting this video because I wanted to bring awareness to a situation that I'm dealing with that's very painful. I was hospitalized June 25th, 2013. I went there to supposedly get an IV. I ended up being forced to take medication, and it was pure hell. They gave me Haldol, Risperidol, and they were forcing antipsychotics down my throat. It was absolute torture and hell.
In the 10-minute video, Tababa made it clear that he was not consenting to this medical treatment, and he explained how the medication he was forced to take made him feel like a zombie, even saying that it had gotten so bad that he had thoughts of taking his own life.
It was bad. It was really bad, and I had suicidal ideation.
Throughout the clip, Tababa comes across as intelligent and well-spoken, but traces of his illness shine through periodically. For instance, he explains how immediately after being released from the hospital on multiple occasions, he would wander away from his home, even attempting to be homeless for a while admitting that he didn't know why this was an issue, or why it would always lead to him going back to the hospital.
I got off, and I think I had another episode as they like to say, where I said I wanted to be homeless. That's it. All I said was I wanted to be homeless. So, and I proceeded to be homeless. And next thing I know, the cops came and they arrested me and they took me back to the hospital. Then after that, I left and I tried to be homeless again, and I was hospitalized again.
But things would be further escalated as Tababa casually explains how he has violent outbursts, even resorting to punching multiple people who were trying to give him medication, as well as starving himself in retaliation.
So I started getting violent, and I started punching people, and I started attacking people in the hospital, and they had to tie me down. I began to lash out, like, I'm going to protest this. I'm going to starve myself as a way of hopefully stopping this ridiculous forced treatment for absolutely nothing.
And by the end of the video, Tababa flat out explains that he does not have any sort of mental illness, or have any symptoms for that matter, calling what was happening to him an injustice.
I guess I'm just trying to let you guys know the injustice that goes on.
It's a truly depressing situation, as on one hand he is being forced to take medication that essentially makes him feel dead inside, while on the other hand it seems very apparent that treatment is necessary to not only keep others around him, but himself safe, as he doesn't seem fully aware of how serious some of his actions are. Tebebe concluded the video by asking those watching what they thought of his situation, and though it didn't garner many views, a select few would stumble upon it and agree with his stance that the treatment he was receiving was unlawful, with many insinuating that he should continue to protest and not take his medication. These comments are unfortunately no longer available, as just a few weeks ago the video was removed, but they had been reflected across multiple sites as people called out the commenters for essentially trying to convince someone to go off his medication cold turkey, and doing so without knowing the true extent of his medical history, which obviously is irresponsible and potentially very dangerous.
Yeah, no.
But unfortunately, these conflicting viewpoints came years later, and in that time,
not a place for advice like that.
No, as much as I appreciate a lot of the people in our YouTube comment section who genuinely are like saying nice things, asking YouTubers, like YouTube comment sections for advice is just, it's bad all around. It's not going to end well. But yeah, anyway.
Surrounding the video's release, Tebebe had likely found the verification he was looking for. He was going to keep protesting his medication. This video would be the first and last that we would ever hear from Tebebe, but it wouldn't be the last we'd hear of him. Just 2 months following the video, Tebebe would make the local news after having an encounter at the hospital. There, a therapist entered his room to talk with him, when suddenly Tebebe snapped, grabbing her and refusing to let go, while performing lewd gestures toward her and eventually pinning her on the ground, refusing to let her go. The situation led to Tebebe being arrested for sexual battery, but no jail time was ever given, as instead, a plea deal was reached where Tebebe agreed to stay in the hospital, and most importantly, he agreed to go back on his medication and take it as prescribed. It's this note that hints at the idea that he had likely gone off his medication before this incident, something that would have directly led to his violent outburst. And given the event's proximity to the video that he had just posted, and the comments supporting his desire to stop taking his medication, it's not hard to theorize that Tebebe may have cut off his meds due to the advice of his comment section, or at the very least was further convinced that it was the right thing to do. Regardless, it seemed clear that the inconsistencies with his medication had caused him to lose control, and this wouldn't be the last time. In the summer of 2019, Tebebe was staying at an Embassy Suites hotel with his mother Zalem Abje, who had been caring for him around the clock. He had been moved there from the hospital as part of his treatment plan, as it kept him close by and easy to monitor regularly, but it also made him free of being cooped up in a hospital room, which clearly he didn't enjoy. The change of scenery was likely supposed to calm Tebebe.
Well, I mean, you stay
like
enough in one place, you're going to go stir crazy.
There's a lot of this story where, like, I kind of see, like, where he's coming from, you know? It's like, obviously, like, if you're in a situation where you have no choice in, like, how you're medicated and stuff, like, it doesn't matter what the problem is, it's not going to feel good at all.
No, it isn't.
Like, I mean, but yeah, like, second opinions should always come from another doctor, or, you know, you should talk to your own doctors and be like, look, this is how I feel, this is not good for me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, can we try something different, please? Like, you know, it's like, stay like, talking to the doctors and stuff, but, like, don't seek your second opinion in the YouTube comments by any means.
No, but again, this guy doesn't seem to be in his right mind as is, and just seeking help from a YouTube comment section to him seems like more sane than, like, the doctors he's been dealing with, which,
I mean, like,
it's kind of shitty.
And part of it's like, would he have actually been violent if he wasn't being forced to do stuff he didn't want to do, you know, and stuff like that? But I don't know. Like, in my opinion, if someone's willing to resort to violence over something like that, then clearly they probably have issues in some capacity.
Yeah.
Because it should be a situation that you're able to resolve without being violent, you would think. It sounds like what he was doing to that one.
That one nurse was
incredibly inappropriate.
Very much so.
Fortunately, his violent outbursts did not stop there. On August 20th at 1:30 a.m., Tebebe would get into an altercation with his mother in their hotel room. It's not clear what had started the argument, but things would quickly turn physical, as Tebebe started to shove his mother, pushing her so hard that it would knock her out of the room, and then onto their balcony. Their room was on one of the top floors of the hotel, and it overlooked the lobby down below, and in one more violent outburst, Tebebe would give one final push, this time knocking her all the way over the railing, causing her to plummet to the ground below. She did not survive the impact.
Man.
Tebebe Mukonnen was arrested at the scene and held at a holding center where he remains to this day awaiting his trial, though his crime is clear and it's likely he will spend the rest of his life either behind bars or in some kind of institution. The events that happened on that fateful morning are still somewhat unknown to this day, though we do know the events that led up to it, and the years of hurt and anger that Tebebe had built up, as well as his inconsistent and dangerous use of antipsychotics, which, unsurprisingly, it appears that he had again attempted to take himself off of his meds in the time surrounding his murderous fit, with this being used as the likely reason for his behavior that day, something that was telegraphed in one single video, which, looking back, almost foreshadows the tragic events that were soon to come, events that may have been further spurred on by the viewers watching him.
The true miracle happened right out of a zombie movie.
Our next video takes us across the world to the Philippines in mid-July 2014. The story begins on a tragic note as a family says their goodbyes to their 3-year-old daughter. In the days prior, the young girl had developed a severe fever, and without access to an up-to-date medical facility, she would pass away in the morning hours on July 12th. With no pulse and no heartbeat, the little girl was pronounced dead and taken home to prepare for the funeral, which would be held the next day. It was obviously a somber event, as the girl was placed in her casket and the lid was shut. Family members and loved ones gathered around to celebrate the short life of a child who deserved so much more, and watch as she was placed into the ground, which would be her final resting place. But before that would happen, one of the neighbors had been in charge of arranging the young girl's body before burial. Though something strange happened when he went to do so. Inside the coffin, the young girl's head began to move. It was a slight twitch, but in a panic, the neighbor checked for a pulse only to discover that her heart was still beating and the young girl was breathing. One of the family members begins to record as the sudden wave of realization hits that the child was actually alive.
Whoa.
It's the ultimate case of what if. Had that person not opened the casket to reposition the body, then that little girl would have been buried alive, and no one would have ever known. It's a clip that I'm sure many of you have seen by now, as the original video itself has garnered over 1 million views, and topping that, a news station that covered the story currently sits with 25 million views. It's one of the more viral horror stories that I've ever seen on YouTube, as seemingly everyone knows about this infamous video, and rightfully so. I mean, it's one of the craziest stories I have ever seen, both on YouTube or in the news. But the only problem is, this viral video didn't tell the whole story. The story itself does in fact appear to be true, having been confirmed by Philippine officials who admitted that a mistake had been made in that particular hospital, which led to the mix-up and almost to the mistaken burial. But the story doesn't have the happy ending that many of us thought, as in reality, that child never actually woke up. She did have a pulse and shallow breathing, but she would never regain consciousness and remained in a comatose
She was
state.
brain dead.
In fact, just 2 days after this video was taken, and on the 15th of July, she would once again be pronounced dead, this time for real. But looking back on the viral video viewed by millions, the anchors say that she was fine, calling it a miracle.
Happy tears, knowing that thankfully she's fine.
I'm glad they opened that casket to check to move around.
Now, it may be possible that they just didn't know this at the time, as based off of the way they're talking, it seems like the report would have came out the day or the day after the child was found alive. Only, that's not true either, as the child was determined to be alive on the 13th of July, and once again pronounced dead on the 15th, just 2 days later. Yet this video was published a full month later, on August 13th, 2014. So when this video went live, that little girl was long gone, and this is something that they likely knew, as it had been well reported in other major news outlets on the day of her actual passing. I mean, nowadays, even the top Google result for this incident mentions her passing, and it came out on the very day it happened. So when this video went live, they had to have known it wasn't true. What started on its own as one of the darkest videos on the site has now become even more twisted as the true ending has been revealed. A miracle that turned out to be nothing more than a mirage, leading to even more heartbreak as the family was now forced to grieve and come to terms with this girl's passing twice. And it's made even worse by the news report that has essentially rewritten the story's ending. But looking at just the video and the story as is, of how everything unfolded, it's still truly horrifying that this little girl was almost buried alive, whether she was conscious or not. And it makes me wonder how many others have been in that dreadful situation, buried alive by mistake. The answer to that question is one that we'll quite literally never know.
Yeah, same.
It's like, what if, like, something happens one day and, like, you get some weird illness that basically puts you into like a deep sleep and all your vital signs go too low and everything, and they pronounce you dead, but you're not actually dead. And then you get buried or cremated while you're not actually dead.
Yeah.
Or even autopsied while you're not dead, you know? Like, fucking sliced open on an autopsy table.
Yeah. I would want to make sure that I'm dead before, like, any post-death, like, preparations are done, whether that be cremation or... I don't know, man. There's stuff that I would want done to, like, ensure that I'm dead. Just be like, okay, you got any, what is it? It's the stuff that they use for, like, the prisoners who are, like, by lethal injection.
I highly doubt they're gonna just pump that into a presumed corpse.
It's just like, no, because that's the thing. It's like, okay, yep, he's dead. All right, just to make sure, let's... At least to a certain degree, I'd want to make sure, like, I'm dead before... I would hope they would make sure I'm 100% dead before anything like that happens.
It's just the weird fear of, like, what if they can't tell, you know?
Yeah.
What if it appears you are and they're sure you are, but you're somehow not?
Yeah. I don't know,
since
man.
it is sealed within the claustrophobic walls of a dark coffin, with no hope of escape.
And that's the unknown.
Computers are coming your way.
Divorce is often one of the more traumatic experiences that a young child can go through, as many are left in a state of confusion and distress at such a tumultuous time in their life. And for a young man named Daniel Bartlam, his childhood was sadly no different. Growing up in Nottinghamshire, England, Daniel's parents, Jackie and Adrian, would separate following the birth of Daniel's younger brother, with the situation leading to a split in the family, as the young boys would move to a new home with their mother. This brought Daniel to an unfamiliar town, as well as a brand new school. And to top it all off, Daniel's mother would soon find a new partner, further adding to the confusion that Daniel must have been feeling. All of these circumstances would lead Daniel to a declining mental state, as he began to isolate himself in his room, barely speaking to his family. Daniel's mother, Jackie, was well aware of the change in his behavior, and she soon thought of the perfect way to bring him out of this depression. So she saved up some money on the side until she eventually had enough to buy Daniel his very own iMac, a computer that he had been asking for years. At the time, Daniel had a vested interest in technology, even having his own YouTube channel dedicated to the topic. But this new computer meant an upgrade in quality and a future with limitless possibilities. Overjoyed, Daniel quickly began a new channel and dedicated his very first upload to his new device.
Oh wow, I remember these transitions.
Hello YouTube, this is Daniel EB1702 here, and it's finally happened. I now have an iMac, and I can now make bigger and better videos.
The video is clearly nothing too special, as the quality is about what you would expect from a kid his age who was just starting out.
Yeah.
The following videos were much the same, with these uploads simply being compilations from a show he liked. It all may not have seemed like much, but this computer, along with this new channel, seemed to be the spark that he so badly needed, a new passion and a new outlook on life. But strangely, after just a few uploads, the account would go silent. This is something that happens all the time on YouTube, where a creator starts posting with high aspirations before abandoning their work, and it's typically due to a lack of success or just the overall busyness of life. But in Daniel's case, his reason for leaving was far darker, as right around the time of his last upload, he would experience the ultimate tragedy. On the morning of April 25th, 2011, neighbors of Daniel had reported hearing a commotion coming from his home. That commotion would soon turn to chaos, as the house suddenly erupted into flames, with smoke billowing out all sides. Through the commotion, Daniel would emerge from the home with his little brother and dog in hand, but his mother was nowhere to be found. Police and fire units arrived at the scene quickly, but were already too late, as inside the home they would find the badly burned and disfigured body of Jackie. And surprisingly, they'd soon notice that it wasn't the fire that had done her in, but rather she had been brutally murdered with what appeared to be a hammer. The scene was shocking and incredibly chaotic, but luckily Daniel had been there to explain everything. According to the child, a masked burglar had entered the home before confronting his mother. The confrontation then led to the anonymous person attacking Jackie with a hammer, causing her to collapse to the floor. He then says the intruder lit her body on fire, leading Daniel to grab his brother and dog and escape from the blaze, saving what remained of his family as the murderer escaped out the back.
He did it, didn't he?
Daniel's story stood out for several reasons, mainly because it showed Daniel was a hero for saving his brother and dog, and it showed just how traumatic that morning must have been for him, as in the matter of one day, Daniel had lost his home and his mother in probably the most devastating way imaginable. But his story also stood out for one other reason, with that reason being in regards to the killer. As police began their investigation, they searched and searched for any clues left behind from this supposed masked intruder, but they found nothing. No fingerprints, no footprints, no anything. And looking for any semblance of a lead, they started to search through Daniel's room, where through the charred remains, they miraculously found his computer in perfect working order. Authorities would search the child's device when they stumbled upon something rather bizarre. It was a story that Daniel had typed months before in a Word document that was set as the scene of a soap opera that he had been writing. The story read, Daniel Bartlam, 1997 to 2047, the longest-serving male character to be on the show. The only place he couldn't get away with his deeds was with his mother, Jackie, so one evening he made it look as though it was a break-in, and murdered his mother with a hammer, and then set her and the family home alight, but helped his brother out to safety, and got his neighbors to contact the police. The story ends with Daniel lying to the police and getting away with murder. It was a shocking revelation, as his mother had been killed with a hammer and set on fire through what Daniel had described as a break-in. just as his story was written. And to make it all stranger, further investigation would reveal that in the days prior to Jackie's death, Daniel had attempted to delete the document, though he had failed to fully remove it. And the findings went deeper, as countless screenshots and clips of a character from a show called Coronation Street were found on the hard drive, with it appearing as though Daniel had an obsession with this character, which proved to be rather interesting, as the character, John Stape, was a villain who had murdered another character with a claw hammer, the same weapon used on his mother. Investigators would keep digging until they eventually found the nail in the coffin, as it was revealed that in the days prior to the attack, Daniel had searched how to get away with murder. With a slew of information and the lack of evidence that a break-in had ever occurred, Daniel's story quickly fell apart, until he eventually admitted the gruesome truth that he had been the one who had taken his mother's life. On the 24th of April, Daniel would spend the night in his room rewatching one of his favorite Saw movies. He then emerged from the room carrying a claw hammer and approached his sleeping mother. He proceeded to strike her 7 times in the face before eventually setting her body on fire and escaping the home with his brother and dog, acting as the hero who had quote-unquote saved the day, when in reality it was all his doing. And the entire series of events had been plotted out on the very computer that his mother gave him, the same computer that he had so excitedly made this video on just months before the attack. To this day, we don't really know why Daniel chose to attack his mother, as any reason he's given has been fairly easily disproven, with many chalking it up to his tumultuous childhood, though we have learned more information about his early years, with many of these stories proving to be incredibly disturbing and hinting at the idea that Daniel was mentally unwell. For instance, it was said that he had an obsession with gruesome movies and games that seemed to inspire his own violent thoughts, as he began watching these graphic films at the age of 8. He took these films as inspiration to start writing his own stories, which almost always ended in death and murder, and the details of which were said to be incredible.
Very much, because it's been scientifically proven over and over that, like, you know, horror games, like movies, like violent games and movies, basically, you know, they don't have a effect on people's behavior. It's like someone who's mentally unwell, I could see it like influencing part of their personality.
Yeah.
But like if they're unwell in that way, even if they don't watch anything violent or play anything violent, they're probably still going to end up violent.
More than likely.
It's like, oh wow, he was watching Saw and like playing violent games at 8, and it's like, yeah, I was playing violent games at 8 and watching horror movies and stuff like in middle school. Like,
yeah,
what of it? Like,
yeah.
I've never even punched anyone.
Just grasping at straws mostly.
Incredibly intense. And in a much darker example, about 6 weeks before the murder, during a normal day at school, Daniel began desperately yanking at his tie, insisting that it was trying to strangle him. When further asked about this, he then revealed that he was hearing voices, and those voices were telling him to hurt people. But surprisingly, after being given a psychiatric evaluation, the counselor told his mother that there was nothing wrong with Daniel. But to be on the safe side, they did offer counseling that Jackie would quickly deny, a decision that, for her, may have ultimately proven fatal. Whatever made Daniel snap that day,
like whoever
it
did
was
the
seemingly
evaluation on him, either he was a really weird case or they were not entirely competent.
Long time coming.
Maybe.
And despite his young age, he would be sentenced to life in prison, with a chance for parole coming in the distant future. But the truly tragic note here is about his mother, Jackie, as she bought her son that iMac that he so clearly loved, and she did so in the hopes that it would bring some much-needed happiness during such a tough time in his life. How could she have known that in reality, Daniel would turn around and use that very computer to plan?
You alright, dude?
I've been coughing on and on today. I hope I'm not getting sick.
I hope not, dude. That would suck.
And eventually carry out her very own murder. And want to give a huge thank you to my gold tier and god tier patrons: Allie Farmer, Barry Winstanley, Bazoo42, Biznacker, Brandon Flores, Karen S., Donovan Aaron, Emily Gray, Game Gamer, Jay Money, Just Dally, Catherine Ross, Lacey, Mark PH, Nathan Backus, Non-Luke Music, Quinn Kiwi, Robert Rubito, Sam Lutfi, Skelly, Sub to Micro O, The Deck of Cards, Unblended Korchnoi, Zinsu Sensei, Lori Tiaba, and Trucky Doggo.
Damn. Well.
Oof. I feel like those were significantly darker than the first of the YouTube's darkest videos.
You ain't kidding. Holy crap. Oh, well, yeah, this one here with Otis, I know it's not his name, but that one and the Buried Alive one, and of course the new iMac, you know, all these stories were just oof. And the Tebebe Makonnen. I really hope that you know, like, if y'all keep recommending these videos, I really hope that y'all just know that we like to be happy. We like to, you know, do fun stuff. We like to do dark stuff occasionally, but, you know, just too much stuff like this will, you know, will really drag us down into a pit. And I don't want to be down there for too long. I just want to enjoy and have fun. Like, that's always been my biggest thing. But yeah, I don't know. So, YouTube's darkest videos, number 2.
This is the kind of stuff that, like, I used to watch with, like, Chance and Andrew, like, my two bros, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we would watch dark things and stuff like that, but at a point I just was kind of like, yeah, like, I kind of feel better a lot of the times not thinking about this kind of stuff very often.
Yeah. Well, anywho, that's going to do it, everybody. If y'all want to see more from Nick Crowley, feel free to click his name in the title of the video. And until next time, I am Nate.
I am Nick.
Be good people. Take care. Peace.